They, and I'll keep telling them until, they walk away or just don't want to listen anymore. Don't ask me, because I will definitely tell you. But it doesn't bother me to tell them as much as it bothers them for having to ask the question in the first place. It's like that, like I was relating about a Halloween party that I was invited to in Atlanta when I was working in corporate. And I went in a heavy wool monk's robe as Rasputin, and I had a beard and whatnot, and the cowl was down, covered over my eyes, and so my whole face was in shadow. And this one lady came up who was obviously in her cups just a little bit, started talking with me, and after about 2 minutes she put her hands up to her face and said, "I got you real." Because we got to talking about esoterics and Rasputin and all of that. Sobered her up.
Part of a recognized truth.
Yeah. So, the thing of it is, you be comfortable with yourself. If the world is not comfortable with you, it's not your fault. Then you look at them and say, "Where you are, I once was." Okay?
Yep.
Sure.
Nope. No, but I would like to just go.
Okay.
She wants to move on.
Yeah, I want to move on.
All right, then in the process of moving on, when the widow drew upon her last supplies to feed the prophet, she found she had abundance. So many times we are afraid to draw upon our remnant, fearing that there will be no more. But when our strength is exhausted, there is the exhaustless divine source upon which we may draw and have greater abundance than before. This does not just apply to material things, it also applies in our mental attainments and our spiritual aspirations. We must give out, put into action that which we have, measure up to the highest degree of consciousness before we can hope to take a step forward. In fact, we may stretch our consciousness, acting on the presumption that we already possess more than has manifested, and by such an attitude on our part, we are setting in motion the forces which will accomplish the greater good for us. A writer of short stories describes his method of writing. He does not think out his plots with his conscious mind, but when he wants to write a story, he sits down at his typewriter, remains there until he gets an idea, and then he begins to write. Usually he says the story then follows, and although it is not methodically planned and outlined, when it is all finished, there is a perfectly logical plot and climax. He works on the assumption that when he takes the right attitude and uses what he already possesses, more along the same line will follow. He puts his creative faculties to work, and taking his position at the typewriter, waits for the idea to come into expression. Now, along this line, over the several decades, I've done some pro se litigation stuff, and I don't know if you're familiar with pro se litigation. Pro se litigation is where a person is acting as their own lawyer. I learned that in Houston, a lot of people were with the they were constitutionalists, and they filed lawsuits against the government and various agencies as pro se litigants. They studied enough law to be able to file a legal brief, to write out a legal brief that was acceptable to the court in perfect format and everything. And in the process, I learned how to do a writing, to do a presentation, a brief. I would be like this individual. I would sit down, except not at a typewriter. I would sit there with a blank page and a pen, and I would start the first sentence. Just start the sentence, and then after that, zone out, and there would be just a flurry of writing. And then when whatever needed to be expressed was finished, I would come back in, and there would be a document in front of me, all ready to be set to type. Everything that was relevant to whatever was being whatever the situation was right there. It's like tapping into the universe and having Thomas Jefferson, James Madison. It's like having their spirits come down and do the work for you because they were gifted attorneys.
It's like automatic.
Yeah, automatic writing. Yeah.
Another mistake.
Yeah, and you can do that. You can tap into that. You learn how to tap into that, and you can every subject has already been addressed or has been covered, and you can draw that knowledge into you, and you don't reason it out. You don't think about it. You just go automatic type writing. And if you look back over it when you finish, when you come back in and you look at it, it has fluidity. It's all the thought processes are very coherent. It's not random or anything.
Yeah, mine's, the letters words were all together. I wrote on this thing that's line. So when she was done, she would have to slash the words to come in.
Yeah, see, in my instance, everything was set grammatically correct. I mean, you didn't have to make any corrections at all. Everything was perfect as it was. It's just a matter of typing it out.
What did your mom do automatic writings on?
Just whatever she got, and needed to do it. I had books, I shredded them. Because I started reading and I thought, no, that's her. That's not me. So, I got rid of it.
So she was doing automatic writing.
Yeah.
That's like someone speaking through you, and what you're talking about is like tapping into the conscious, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, she was, to me, it's a channel.
Yeah, it's the same, basically
Yeah.
the same thing.
It was a guide or.
You're tapping into a higher consciousness other beyond your own. It's like the writings of legal briefs were in legalese, which I was not at the time cognizant of. I was not that gifted in legalese. But by tapping into that universe of cosmic lawyers, the information came in and everything was written out as it should be in legalese. And so that's what this writer is. That's what this example was. The writer would sit down and then with maybe a thought or something, and then everything pertinent to that would just come right in and flush it out.
I think when I was a trainer, we used to do a lot of that. That I had a lot of knowledge about the different subjects because I did it. But I'd sit down and just come, and then I never had to really do anything.
Right. See, that gets us back to what we were talking about previously about having. It's not a matter of knowing everything. It's a matter of having that library card to the universe where everything is.
I never thought about that.
this guy though, it seems like when he's doing his little it seems like he's sitting down with the faith that he's going to create something, and he manifests it. He just manifests it.
It comes in maybe through his inner self, from a higher self, but it could clearly come from something beyond his own reason. They call it the creative, impulse or whatever, however you want to call it. And you can do the same thing. You're drawing when our capabilities can be limited, but we can, if we have access to the universe and the library, there is no limitation. The only real limitation is when you start questioning what's coming in.
Yeah, it says here you must commit clear expressions to your degree of light in order to gain more.
Right.
So the servant did as good as he could do, and he got praised for it. Maybe the master would know more he would do.
Yeah.
What page are you on?
I don't know. 10, on item 10. Is that?
Where is that?
Right at the top.
At the top of the page.
The master said the servant. Oh, I thought you were, I thought what you said came out of here. But it came out.
Well, I thought it came out of here.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I was reading it.
Yeah, but the embellishment was more than what was on the printed page.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. I wanted to highlight it.
Across the forehead.
Right here.
Okay, moving on. All dominant thoughts will come into manifestation sometime, somewhere. If desires are repressed and denied expression in a normal way, they are sure to come forth later in some other form that may have an undesirable effect upon the life. The normal expression of the repressed aspiration in one individual may take form and be reproduced in the life of another. For thoughts go out into the universe and may be picked up by anyone in tune with their vibration. See that your aspirations have a normal outlet in your life. Yeah, it's kind of heavy.
What? But what does that have to do with anything? Why?
Okay, so this
Let's
is
look
the
at-
universe.
Yeah.
All right, let's go through it sentence by sentence. How's that?
No, that's not. I'm still
No.
stuck back on the other thing, which I don't want to go back to. But I don't understand why. Okay, we have drives that we're supposed to ignore and stuff. Like we're supposed to be.
Such as?
Well, let's say I want to be snotty to everybody.
All right.
And I'm having a really bad day. It's you know, for me to follow who I think I'm supposed to be, I use everything I have to stay calm and to stay relaxed and to try to project compassion and but what if I'm denying my artist's desire? I don't know.
Well, all right. Let's deal with snotty real
Well,
quick.
I don't understand what artistic expression has to do with tapping into God. Wait a second, we're supposed to be experiencing stuff and bringing it back.
Well, let's go back to the snotty. I kind of like that. See, if somebody, if say you wanted to be snotty to me, okay, I would accept that that's not your real nature. That in reading your energy, I could sense that you are not having a good day, and that so long as I do not take offense with it and take it personal and see it as you releasing that energy, all right, so I'm the object of it. I don't care. If it helps you heal yourself or release that energy instead of holding it in, I can do that. It doesn't bother me. If you feel like, if you vent out on me, and then having said whatever you wanted to say, question parentage, marital relationships, or whatever, that would be fine if when you finished you go, I feel better now. Releasing that energy, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it because I don't attach personal significance to it. I'm letting you release that energy which is eating you up, and it doesn't offend me that you make any allegations about parentage or anything else. But it helps you heal, so that's okay.
Well, I don't think that's where she was going with it.
Now,
I think I have a good example.
okay.
I was looking at, let's see, I went to eBay for something this morning or yesterday, and then I started looking at all these clothes that people are wearing in big cities. Okay, so there's all these girls, and there's I wouldn't necessarily want to be friends with these people, but you got to admit they're a type of artist, they're a type of expression, but they're really shallow and really they're so obsessed with the outside,
Right.
that they don't seem to have a lot going on the inside. But they seem to have a drive to express like that. Like the chick in the movies with the and the little dog in the bag, and
Sort of. Would you?
that's how she's expressing.
Would you say that it could be an issue of they're afraid to be themselves, so they just try to be one of the crowd?
Well, okay, so going back to where I was stuck.
Right.
All right, let's say that that they, let's say that people told them you don't express yourself that way. Let's say that they have parents that said you're being shallow, right? So the girl's got, she wants to have a little dog in the pink, whatever. But she forces herself not to because her parents are saying no, or she's not allowed, whatever. They take all her stuff away because she's being a bitch or whatever, So that person might be able to grow because the stuff was taken away from her that she was being driven to express herself with. So it seems like it could be damaging to go on a line of an expression like that. Let's say I wanted to do art. Okay, I could do art if I wanted to, and I might, and I think I'm afraid that I might get a fat head. Like it might mess me up. I might not be able to stay grounded if I did that. Why would I want to do the art? Well, if I'm only wanting to do the art so that people will say, "Oh, you're such a wonderful artist," that doesn't seem like I think I got lost. I'm sorry, you guys.
No. Look, if you want to be an artist, you be an artist. This is probably an off-the-wall comparison. Hitler thought himself an artist, and he tried painting. Then when he couldn't do painting, he did house painting. All right, he was lousy at both, so he became a dictator, which he did well. But the thing of it is, as I see it, if you wanted to express yourself, and in an avenue or along an avenue that others were saying to you, well, that just, we just don't do that. I think that, that doesn't make them right. It doesn't make you wrong for wanting to do it.
It doesn't seem like it would. To tell you the honest truth, I don't know what I'm stuck on. I really don't.
I mean, look at Picasso. His work is so
strange. I don't even understand why people are into that. I really don't.
Well,
But
people
it's
are,
not really what you do, it's like the reason why you're doing it.
Right.
The reason why you're doing it, or you think behind it.
right. Are you doing it because you want to do it? Or are you doing it because society is saying this is what you should be doing?
Or are you doing it because society says you shouldn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you said, intent. And I think too, if you are going to be causing problem with somebody else's religion and basing out thoughts and stuff, I don't think that you should act out to someone that just because it's not theirs. You can do what you want, but don't act out in such a way that they would, because then you're getting into their bailiwick, and that's not.
Right.
I don't know if that is right or not.
Yeah, well, that's like, everybody's an individual and everybody has their own ideas and their own views about things. And if your views and somebody else's views don't jive, well, you're just not in the same place. And if they come down on you because you don't believe like they do, well, that doesn't make you wrong. It makes them wrong. You can believe whatever you want, but when it gets to the point where you're dictating to somebody else what they should be believing, that's overstepping boundaries.
Yeah. No, it's just sometimes I want to have a blue mohawk and spikes and really black makeup.
I don't think a mohawk will work. You might try this.
I've come close.
You could get butch.
I've done that. I zipped it all off.
Yeah.
And it was like that.
There was a time when they did that, and the only way you could tell who was who from behind is that the guys wore higher heels.
The guys wore higher heels?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's when they were doing the shade roll.
My how times have changed.
But the thing of it is, you have your life to live, and you have your experiences to experience, and you can't do that if you're allowing somebody else to tell you what you should be living and what you should be experiencing. Because what you're going through is for your life's lessons, not theirs. It's for you. And if they don't see that, well, you wish them well and
Yeah.
go about your business.
That's not their problem.
Well, it's not your problem that it's their problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that help any? Are we a little closer?
I think so.
Be yourself within norms. Like I say, we can do what we can do on our back deck. We got neighbors 150 yards away. We got forest in between us.
It's sort of like, you know how some people will say, well, I never lie, I never tell a lie. Or they'll begin each sentence with honestly. And it's a known psychological fact that everybody, to some degree, lies about something, even if it's to keep from hurting other people's feelings. So it's not so much the lie that's the evil, but the reason why you're telling it. Because would you tell a lie to save your mother's life? Would you tell a lie to save somebody that's really close to you? So it's kind of like goes back into
Yeah. Well, it's like recently someone online accused and said, "Well, you were in Vietnam. You can't say that you never did marijuana or anything while you were there." And I said, "No, I can say that I never did because
I was there.
I said because I was there for 5 years, and by the 3rd year, I was in charge of other people's lives. And when one is in charge of other people's lives and people are depending on you to get them through the experience at home in something other than a body bag, you take things very responsibly." And I pointed out to him that that sense of responsibility is very high with me. And I had people who, for whatever reason, were doing drugs or whatever, to get out of it, get out of NOM or whatever. I pointed out that if that's what they wanted, I brought them up on charges, got them their dishonorable discharges, and shipped them out. The thing that they had to live with is that dishonorable discharge will be with them the rest of their lives. They will never have any benefits from the government, and any employment that says, "Show me your DD 214, your service history," they see dishonorable discharge on it, they'll turn them around and walk them out the door.
But you might save them the karma of somebody else getting killed or something.
Yeah, because what happens is when they're messed up on drugs, they were never killed because there were no threat. So they just did, Charlie would just walk by them, because they'd be so blessed they wouldn't even know what was going on anyway. And Charlie would kill good people. And people like that, they have no business being there. If they want out, I'll arrange for them to get out. But they'll be paying a lifetime for it. So I said, no, I'm not high and mighty. I just have a high sense of responsibility. If people trust you and you know they trust you, you're not going to betray that trust by doing something asinine or stupid.
Yeah, that guy was talking to me from his own moral code.
Yeah.
You can't imagine anything beyond.
Right.
That's all up to you.
So anyway, shall we go ahead and continue on?
Okay.
I think we whooped that horse a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. If a child is very emotional, it is an indication that he has much power. To be sure, the emotions may run away with him and bring disastrous results. Therefore, the emotions should be trained and directed in constructive channels, but they should never be repressed. The emotional child has a vivid imagination, and if properly directed, high ideals can be erected which will shape the entire life. As a person's intellect and spiritual faculties are developed, the urge for expression becomes even keener and more insistent. Like the plant whose growth forces the rock apart, the real self of the individual will find a way to burst asunder every restricting band and come into some degree of expression. The life germ will express regardless of obstacles. The power which is the source of life compels it to move forward. If the legitimate outlet is not kept open, it will force its way out through some other channel. Just as the force of the dammed up mountain stream cuts a way through in another direction, the law of life is action, not stagnation. Are we okay with that? Many people repress their aspirations because they do not want to pay the price of success in some particular line. Success in life is not so much dependent upon the unusual ability one may have as it is upon his disposition to actually work and put into practice faithfully the thing they believe in and the thing they want to do. Many men and women of mediocre ability accomplish great things. They succeed not because they are so much brighter than someone else, but they felt that they wanted to do a certain thing and were not afraid to put into practice what they knew. They had the urge to do, and because they felt that they could, they went ahead and accomplished their undertaking. They expressed instead of repressed their desires. But someone may say, there are desires that should not be permitted to come into expression and therefore should be repressed. It is true that through race thought, the subconscious has embedded in it desires which, if allowed free and unrestricted expression, will wreck the life of the individual themselves and harm others. But repression is not the remedial agency, for our penitentiaries and sanitariums are filled with victims of the policy of repression. These people are not being benefited by the process, neither do they, by their example, serve to warn others and save them from a like fate. As stated before, emotions must be controlled, but the only way that emotions can be controlled is by control of the thoughts of the conscious mind. To a great extent, desires and emotions take their coloring from the conscious mind thinking. So if the conscious mind is busy about matters of great import, the desires and emotions are also uplifted and purified and come into expression as the embodiment of some high ideal. Someone has said that emotion sublimated becomes devotion. The creator of a beautiful picture has within his soul great wellsprings of emotion, which if permitted to run rampant would bring them to ruin. But they control their emotions through their aspirations, and they furnish the power that carries them to fame. Another with like ability permits their emotions to run unbridled along lower channels, and they bring to him ignominy and death. So what I think we're saying here is energies attract like energies. That's the bottom line here. Parents sometimes prevent a child from indulging in some amusement or pastime which they may consider harmful. If they do not, however, interest the child in some other activity that would give natural vent to their energies, then they are left alone to find their own way. Fortunate is the child whose parents understand the law of life and growth and are looking for tendencies in a child which will enable them to direct their training in the most constructive channels. Educational systems are improving in their methods of teaching, but all too frequently they deal with the children only in the aggregate. And this is where we get into what we have now, homeschooling and the public education system. The public education system really isn't, the only thing it has going is it's public, but it's not really in the education.
I don't remember what
Aggregate is the total, the group.
Okay.
Yeah. So instead of the child being treated as an individual, they're just part of the whole. And now that's the focus on homeschooling. That homeschooling can produce better, well-rounded children than the public education system. And
Come back and Born on Star Trek.
yeah,
Intelligence.
kind of like along that line, or collective indoctrination, however you want to look at it.
Or it's kind of like if we were teaching this stuff to people that were already past it and the people that couldn't comprehend it, along with people that couldn't comprehend it. That's kind of what is happening in public school. Kids get left behind and they get bored because their brains have already comprehended that years ago. Whatever's.
Well, and from what I'm given to understand and from what I perceive, the current level of public education system is if a child is presented with a test and they make an effort to answer the question, even though the answer is absolutely not germane at all, they get graded.
Still pass.
Yeah, they still pass because they
don't want to hurt their feelings.
Right. They don't want to, they don't want to make them feel inferior.
No,
No.
this is it's pretty new in the last few years, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because they don't, heavens forbid the child become, self-conscious about being inferior to other
They're
children.
being down with America.
Yeah, that's exactly
That's
what
been
it is.
changed since my daughter graduated.
And you
She graduated in '98.
She did good.
There's all kinds of stuff wrong with it. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, and teachers, there have been incidents where teachers provide the students the answers because they don't want the students to feel bad about having the wrong answer.
But then there's also parents think that the teachers are babysitters, and they pawn them off, and they try, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They try, because I'll tell you, I could never do homeschooling for my child. I didn't even understand the fourth grade, Melissa's fourth grade. But I know, there's good, I mean, if a parent can teach their kid, what kind
Well, the parents are looking at the public education system and seeing
Yeah.
the gross failures of it,
Yeah.
and say, it's like, I can do better than that.
Yeah.
They have actual study courses for parents to
Yeah.
use.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, now back in '98,
Oh,
back
wow.
graduated in '98, so.
And testing and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
She loves very social, but she did good down and did A's and B's on the roll. She did good. But her dad wanted her to homeschool, she said.
Okay, well, let's, moving on. Much attention may be given to analyzing the sentences, studying wars, both ancient and modern, to foreign languages with little or no time being devoted to nurturing the tender plant which so absorbs the attention of the pupil as to preclude their attaining excellence in regular studies. Many times such a child has been classed as a dullard and treated as though they were below average in intelligence. If the urge in them is strong enough, in later years they may bring the genius into expression and give a good account of the 10 talents entrusted to them. But all education should have in view the bringing out of all the latent possibilities in the individual child, and our schools of the future will more and more reach toward that ideal. Current public education stresses just the opposite of that.
Yes.
Adults are but children in the school of life, and whatever may have been their experiences in the past, they can begin now to express that inner urge which will come to find fruition in due time. Continue to think only constructive thoughts of the highest order of which you are capable. This will help to direct the emotions into channels where they're coming into expression will mean the rounding out and perfecting of your life. Observe your periods of quiet meditation each day and do not worry about your progress. It will take care of itself. To the statements you have been using, add the following: I am the expression of the divine. And you can also read that as I am the expression of the divine.
I was reading this before, and that's what it came to me. It's I am.
That's I am consciousness.
So the dead horse question is now answered.
Good.
Because if somebody's centered and in touch with, if they're grounded and centered and stuff, their desires and urges are going to be with their,
Their
like
higher
it says,
self.
yeah, control the thinking and the
Right.
emotions.
Well, it's the law of affinity of energies. You put out negative energies, it draws negative energies. You put out positive energies, it draws positive energies. You fill your aura with negative energies, and you attract people whose auras are filled with negative energies. You fill your aura with positive energies, light. You will find people who have like mind being drawn to you. And those that don't, well, you wish them well and go about your business. I learned over the years in dealing with I've dealt with groups of students, and out of 40 or 50 students, I would say out of the collection of all of you, I think there may be 2 or 3 who are ready to move on. The rest of you all, well, you know, I'll work with you, but there's only 2 or 3 who really have promise. Because they're seeking. You're comfortable where you're at, and you're not really wanting to go beyond that. And I'm not going to force you. So for the benefit of those 2 or 3 who are wanting to learn, I put this information and energy out for everybody. If you don't want to draw water from the well, you don't have to. So anyway, add that to the other expressions that of self-unfoldment. I am peaceful. I have the power to think. I am in quiet meditation. I am contacting my good now. I am powerful. I am my own authority. I am the expression of the divine. And you know, we talked about, you know, initially, you know, you're climbing a mountain now, and the further up you go, you'll find that there's less and less companionship. But you'll be doing so much better with it. And you're not going to be alone. There are others on the path. And me, you can beat on my head anytime you want. I'll tell you what I've learned. And that's all I can do is express to you what I've experienced and what I've found to be true. And it's up to the individual to find out in their own path what is true for them. Because I'm not going to dictate it to you.
And we do let people know the training. Subject matter is bottom line is they can put themselves into it.
Yeah.
Fits them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. And you know, like I say, you know, people will say, you know, will ask questions and say, you know, you really want to know? Because I'll tell you. And I'll keep telling you. So anyway, it was a great section. It was really good.
Oh, well, I think so. Two people. Thank you.
The honor is deserved. Believe me, the honor is deserved.
Boy, that's a look.
And that's a wrap.
You're just giving she's just giving the camera a look.